Смотри.
In anticipation of a nuclear war, a mysterious object fell to Earth. You are on the Logline channel, and this is a recap of Terminus. Employees of the United States National Scientific Agency received a message about the extraterrestrial object that had fallen to Earth. However, when they arrived at the scene, all they found was a bewildered old man repeating a single word incessantly: rebirth. It turned out the man had been blind, but miraculously regained his sight. Unable to find the mysterious object, the agents took the old man with them. Meanwhile, a mechanic named David Chamberlain was going through a difficult period in his life. His beloved wife, Jane, had passed away, and business at his workshop was very slow, with hardly any orders. As a result, he had to turn down a job for a war veteran named Zach. Later, along with his colleague Dave, David went to the bar as usual to have a bottle of beer. Zach, one of the local troublemakers, approached him along with his gang and started beating the veteran in the parking lot. David tried to intervene and stop them. As soon as one of them tore off Zach's prosthetic leg, they all scattered, unwilling to deal with a cripple. David offered to give Zach a ride to the rehabilitation center and took the opportunity to hint to the fighters about the futility of such fights. In response, an irritated Zach called him an ignorant idiot. When David returned home, he found a cake on table specially prepared by his daughter, Annabelle. It turns out it was his birthday today, and he had forgotten. The girl had returned from college earlier in the day because David's last 2 tuition payments had bounced, resulting in her expulsion. Alcohol had run out, so David decided to replenish his supplies immediately. While driving along the night road, David noticed a falling object in the sky not far away. Out of nowhere, a meteorite causes the man to lose control and veer off the road. Suddenly, against the backdrop of the glowing fallen object, a female silhouette appears. With a broken head, she approaches him. The man collapses next to the peculiar meteorite, which remotely resembles a cosmic egg, and thin tentacles start reaching out to him. When she wakes up in the morning, she discovers that her father still hasn't returned home. The girl immediately tries to report him missing, but the sheriff asks her to wait at least 24 hours. The mechanic, Nate Wilcox, has no idea where David is. Only towards evening does the girl find her father's overturned car on the side of the road next to the woods. She spent late into the night searching for him, but her flashlight ran out of battery, forcing her to return to the car in despair. The girl began to cry when suddenly David emerged from the woods. She immediately took him to the hospital, where she was surprised to learn that a kidney had been donated by David to save her mother's life, and miraculously, it had regrown. During dinner, the girl expressed her support to her father and went to sleep, while David stayed to watch the news, which reported an escalation of conflict between Iran and America. Suddenly, he heard a female voice calling his name. It was his beloved Jane. She warned David that time was running out and showed him a future nuclear explosion. David didn't wait for morning and immediately went to the garage to capture the scene drawing. According to Jane's words, salvation would depend on it. Meanwhile, government agents argued with their supervisor, trying to prove that their research and search for extraterrestrial objects were just as important for the country as the war. Then Agent Gilo Steen observed with interest as they dissected the sighted old man, Shiva. The next day, David went to the rehabilitation center to offer Zach a job. Naturally, the veteran agreed, and they both headed to the woods. David asked Zach to activate the winch, and then he returned to the meteorite, only to discover that grass had started growing around it. The object was so heavy that the men struggled to lift it and load it into the car. Suddenly, Zach felt something and jerked his hand away from the meteorite. While her father was absent, she immersed herself in melancholy and watched her childhood videos with her mother. After that, she decided to go through her belongings and sort out what to throw away or donate to charity. When David returned in the evening, he didn't appreciate his daughter's initiative. In his opinion, it wasn't necessary to pretend that Jane never existed in order to move on with their lives. Meanwhile, at the rehabilitation center, he felt a strong pain in his amputated legs. His friend and fellow sufferer, Jim, told him that it was just regular phantom pains. The world awaited a special event in the morning. All the patients of the center gathered for a protest against the government's decision to send over 100,000 conscripts to war. However, one man didn't like it and spat right in the face of the disabled man. In addition, someone called the police, and the protesters were quickly dispersed. Meanwhile, the pain in the man's leg became unbearable, and he started bleeding. It turned out that a new leg was slowly growing in place of the one he had lost. David immediately realized the significance of this development. The meteorite heals everyone who touches it. The man went somewhere else, and at the same time, Agent Stein reports the landing of another object. The fourth one, somewhere in the northeast. David returned in the evening and asked his daughter to help him take Zach, whom he seated next to the meteorite. Tentacles emerged from it and wrapped around his arm. His leg began to rapidly grow and turned into a healthy limb. The next morning, with curiosity, she watched Zach walk in the yard on his own 2 feet. The man couldn't believe his luck. After exchanging a few words, the guys found David off, who had just finished his drawing of an unusual structure. According to him, it should protect the meteorite from the imminent threat. Zach noticed that the project would require many steel sheets, and the men began developing plans. David drugged his friend and stole his keys with the help of an order. Then, the men stole the necessary materials and a concrete mixer truck from their employer. They brought all these goods to an abandoned warehouse. At the same time, Agent Stein, along with police scientists, found only a few debris at the meteorite crash site. The sheriff immediately pointed out David Chamberlain as a possible suspect who had recently damaged his car at this location. After analyzing the data obtained from studying the debris, the scientists made an incredible discovery. It turned out that the mysterious cosmic object contained DNA chains of various plants and animals, including humans. While David and Zach were working hard on creating a special structure, Payne visited the grave of his mother, where Zach confessed that it's difficult for her not to feel negative emotions towards her father. In her heart, she decided to burn all of Jane's belongings, but agents interrupted her. The secret agent was searching for David, and when he returned home, the man started asking him some questions about the meteorite. David began to lie, claiming he didn't know anything. Then, Stein informed him that they were not aware of the miraculous appearance of a kidney in his body, to which David came up with a new lie, stating that it was an unknown object. When the agents left, Annabelle couldn't bear the pain anymore and demanded that her father give them what they were looking for. The agents began to surveil David, but quickly lost track of him when he asked his friend Tony to cover for him. Meanwhile, Zach was working on a construction project for the meteorite. Zach asked his friend to accompany him, promising him a miraculous healing as a more convincing incentive. They showed Jimmy a new leg, but he rejected their help. Zach was disappointed as soon as they left the rehabilitation center, as they were immediately apprehended by employees of the national agency. Meanwhile, Tony arrived at the abandoned warehouse in search of David. His boss had promised to fire him if Tony didn't return the car stolen by David earlier in the day. Upon discovering the strange device, Tony demanded explanations and tried to call the police. But David, saying, "You won't understand," attacked his friend and accidentally killed him. Meanwhile, in David's house, Gyanjalu Stein held Bell, a law enforcement officer, hostage. He was amazed at how a soldier could regenerate a new leg, considering it some kind of miracle. He urged Zach to think about how much good they could do for humanity if he revealed the whereabouts of the object. However, the guys remained silent. Then Stein began to beat Zach with a poker, but David appeared and interrupted the torture. He aimed a gun at Stein, rendering him unconscious while emphasizing that they wouldn't get any information from him. The gun silenced Stein, and all three of them attempted to escape through the window. However, one of the agents shot the girl, knowing that David would inevitably bring her to the object for healing. Concerned, David's father rushed to the warehouse and placed the injured girl next to the extraterrestrial object. The meteorite had already created a special living environment around itself. However, the girl showed no signs of life, and thinking that his daughter had died, David doused the structure with gasoline, intending to set it on fire. But Stein stopped him, saying, while the men were arguing, she was healed. And suddenly, a powerful explosion interrupted the confrontation. A gigantic mushroom cloud in the distance indicated that a nuclear war had begun on Earth. rendering their quarrel meaningless. Injured David asks Zach to take care of Annabelle and lock them both inside with the meteorite. The girl cried, and suddenly the walls of the capsule began to crack. Water started pouring in rapidly, filling the space, and instantly froze along with the three of them. Decades passed before the meteorite released Zach, and they were set free into the world. Destroyed by humanity in the past and now carrying within themselves the DNA of numerous beings, a cosmic object will be reborn on the planet of life. Thanks for watching. More stories await you. Please like and subscribe to see more interesting movies.